Hello and welcome to the Borealis Experience. Today I'm very excited to introduce you to James Olson. He has been through the 12-step program. He has been struggling with addiction for quite some time and was able to recover now. And he will share his story from the sweet and very painful beginnings when he was a school kid, and also share his mission in helping and supporting others now. It is very dear to me to speak to people who have gone through that, because I feel there's a deep need in society to see that addiction is not a choice. Addiction is a symptom, and we have to go down to the root and heal trauma. Thank you so much for listening. James Olson, here with you on the Borealis Experience podcast.
Awesome. Well, thank you. It was good to meet you and see that we kind of had similar interests, helping others that are struggling in certain ways and trying to, better themselves or grow. Mm-hmm. So, I guess a little background of me is for most of my earlier part of life, I struggled with addiction and alcoholism. It was a very destructive force in my life, and had a negative fallout on me personally, and especially relationships, family, friends, girlfriends, things of that nature, children. That was probably the driving force, was my relationship with my children, to ultimately change and look at recovering or changing the way that my life was. Looking for a new path was the fact that I was letting down my children as a father. Mm-hmm. So that was the driving force. Mm-hmm. Ultimately what happened was I ended up joining 12-step programs, things like AA, NA, which is Narcotics Anonymous, CA, Cocaine Anonymous, things of that nature. I used a gamut of drugs and alcohol when I was in my addiction using stages. And so I can definitely utilize a lot of different groups. Not to blow my own horn or anything, but I feel like it was successful. Mm-hmm. Not that I'm finished in any way, but the transition from the way it used to be to what it is now is definitely a huge positive gain or growth or advantage to what it used to be. It's no longer the way it used to be. I definitely owe those programs and the principles and the ideals that they teach kind of in how to live in those programs to the reasoning or the factor that my life has got better. Mm-hmm. And that I've been able to grow in these ways and these directions. And I did part of that. Those things are that I share my story and tell you what it used to be like, to show that I was there too. What happened, and what was the changing, the transition that took place, and then what it's like now. Mm-hmm. And so to start that, what it used to be like was not good, to say the least. It was hard. Yes. It was rough. And part of the story is that it really started early. It was long before I ever took my first drink or my first drug or my, it was probably the establishment of a low self-esteem or low sense of self-value. Mm-hmm. And those were created long before I ever suffer from any sort of addiction or alcoholism or anything of those negative. It was kind of surroundings and coping with surroundings, coping with things that projected ideas of less than. Mm-hmm. Part of that story is that I suffered from dyslexia. So it was just, I just wasn't able to read or process words or I didn't have a problem with speech. I had a problem with reading, literal reading part. It didn't. I watched in school kids around me be able to do it with ease, and it wasn't like that for me. It was very hard and extremely confusing, and I couldn't figure it out, and I just couldn't grasp. And it was so hard that I gave up. But sorry about that. I'm using my phone, so whenever I get a call, it kicks me off. But so what happened was it was so hard in school to actually read, and as anybody knows, reading's a fundamental part of education. Yeah. Like you need that tool to go forward in education. Mm-hmm. So when you don't have that, what it does is it creates a question. Why is this hard for me when it's easy for everyone else? Yeah. I must be like, and I think as small children and when we don't fit into boxes that everyone else seems to, it creates an idea that I'm less than, I'm not good enough. Mm-hmm. It's just a natural place that our young brains take us. We somehow see ourselves as and it established, what it did was establish a poor sense of self. Mm-hmm. And which wasn't so. It was just, I was built different than others, mm-hmm. And it's a very common thing too. That I think they said 1 out of 5 has dyslexia. Mm-hmm. But another kind of weird stat is that over 50% of males incarcerated in the juvenile males incarcerated, over 50% of them have dyslexia. Mm-hmm. So it's a very formidable part that I don't know if it's being addressed or not. That you're sent into a system where you have to read to be a part of it. And then when you can't, you're kind of left at the wayside.
Yeah, you're set up for failure.
And as a result,
yeah,
as a result, you really, it creates beliefs in you, whether, subconsciously or not. It really affects people. And so that's kind of one of the genesis of my poor path choices, I guess, was definitely some of the ideals that I believed in back then. Mm. And so, but I'm a big believer with every negative, there's positive. Mm. And part of that positive was I couldn't give up. And so what I ended up doing was I ended up figuring out how to figure things out without reading. Where you would look at a newspaper or instructions and, gather the information. I had to gather information other ways. A lot of it was pictures. A lot of it was watching others, what they were doing. So it made me hyper aware of others, my surroundings. It made me, I wasn't able to just look at a sign and know what the information on it. I had to find other ways to gather information. Mm-hmm. And to this day, it serves me well. It's definitely an advantage that I have. Mm-hmm. It's a kind of a blessing and disguised in the hardship. But it's also in that to be able to see those advantages in the hardship is definitely a byproduct of the attitude that I need to possess to get better from my addiction, and I need to find the positives in situations,
Mm-hmm.
or gratitude. A lot of people see it as gratitude. It's a fundamental part to living a positive life is having gratitude. So to go for, and I guess to continue with my story, I went on to, I think as every young teenager, drinking and partying and experimenting. And from the get-go, I liked how it made me feel. I hadn't felt that way. All of a sudden, I wasn't worried about feeling less than. I wasn't worried that you're better than me. I wasn't worried that you were whatever. I felt equal to you for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is not ever naturally feeling that I went overboard with it. So I was never I never had, any sort of self-control when it came to drinking or partying. It was, this feels good, I need more, give me all of it. I'd don't ever make it stop.
Mm-hmm.
And that just led me down a definite, a rabbit hole that I couldn't get myself out of. And it continued, straight from when my first time to actually my first time going into a treatment center. And that was at the age of I think 20 or 21. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't remember, but around that area, around that time. And I went in that, I was dating a girl at the time, and she had approached my parents and said, James has a problem. He's, I think his drinking's out of control. What can we do about it? My dad was a nurse at the time. He looked into it and found me a treatment center. This was all done without me knowing. I think I came home for a Sunday dinner one time, and my girlfriend and my parents basically had an intervention on me and said, "Hey, you got a problem. Your dad's set up this facility that you need to go to and spend a couple weeks there and address this out of control drinking. You're ruining everything." And thank God that I had a loving family that did something like that.
Yeah.
And so I went off. I did the treatment. I think it was a 3-week treatment. It was in Claire's home. And I sobered up. I quit drinking. I grabbed on. I liked what they talked about. I wanted to change. I could see that I needed to change, but I just didn't know enough about addiction and the fact that wanting to change isn't enough. Mm-hmm. That seeing the problem isn't enough. That I need to. The idea is you need to commit to a new way of life, mm-hmm. and that means at any cost. Mm-hmm. It has to become the most important thing in your life. And so when I got out of the treatment center, I tried to change everything. I was still in the blaming. I'm in the wrong city. I'm with the wrong girl. If I had got the wrong job. So I changed all those things, thinking that if I changed those things, mm-hmm. then I would, I just had to, I speak of it like I tried everything. I just had the combination. So I needed to adjust everything around me, and then I would become better. Mm-hmm. So I moved to a different town. I broke up with that girl. I got another job, and for a while it worked. But the problem was I was still there. Mm-hmm. I was the problem, and I just changed things around me without changing myself.
Yeah.
So I think I stayed sober for about a year or so. I think a little bit over a year maybe. And I started hanging out with new people, started, these new people in the new town. I think a factor of somebody that's struggling is we attract like-minded people. So like, once again, I ended up with people that wasn't using. And I kind of graduated. I wasn't drinking, but all of a sudden in the big city and being a small town kids, I was introduced to these drugs and that kind of lifestyle. And once again, I felt something that I was longing for, acceptance and kind of feeling good about myself. And I went pretty wild with that. I guess the difference is with drinking and going to drugging is that it gets financially hefty quick with drugs. The money adds up fast. Drinking, it doesn't seem to do that. You go to the bar, have a long drawn out night, and you might have spent $100. A night of drugging, we're talking, you can rack up thousands. It's not even the same ball game. And so I ran into financial problems quick. And in order to solve those, I found somebody that was willing to let me sell their drugs for them to pay for my own. And the problem is I'm an addict and I have no money managing skills, and I got into problems in that situation as well. But those were really big problems. And I had some scary people that I owed some scary numbers to. And out of desperation, so this would have been, I guess, almost a 10-year span. And so I believe I was just under 30 when I was in a pretty scary situation. Basically, some people came to me and they meant business and said, this is the number that you owe us and you have this amount of time to pay, and left it at that. And I knew what they meant, that my number was up unless I got this money to them. And I was scared. I kind of went pretty just to a dark place. It was like, well, I'm not going to let them take me out. I'll take myself out. And I ended up standing on the edge of a bridge, and I was trying to get the guts to basically throw myself off this bridge, and I couldn't do it. I was a wimp. And thank God for it. But I returned to my apartment. I was dating a girl at the time. I broke down and told her what had happened and what I would just come back from. And she was from Lethbridge as well. She took me to Lethbridge, and I think it was a couple days after that, we went to Lethbridge and ended up in her parents' living room. And they sat me down and said, this girl, our daughters told us what is going on with you, and we want to help you. We're willing to lend you this money to get you out of this situation. But here's a contract we've drawn up, and it states that you're going to pay us back all this money in this amount of time. And that part of the contract is you're going to go to treatment again, and you're going to get clean and sober. And so, I signed, absolutely, I'll definitely do that. I'm open to that. So I signed it and got these people off my back, and went to treatment once again. And it was a good experience, but the problem was I didn't do it for myself. I did it to appease them. I wasn't really in the mind state to fix me for me. And so I went and did, and I sobered up. But then to pay back the money that, her parents had lent me, I went back to those guys and started selling again, but I wasn't using. So I started selling drugs again, made the money back really fast. Like, it was a world of difference when, when I'm not high and not using. I was really good at it. But the problem is I'm back in that life. I'm around those people. I paid her parents off like in a quarter of the time that they had allotted me to. But I was back in that life. And, once again, it led me down the same road. I ended up using again I never went back to the problematic or the chaos that I was once at, but I was definitely I wasn't living a healthy lifestyle. Let's just say that. It was still a lot of turmoil, a lot of heartbreak, a lot of, just rough times. And, I was trying to, like I said, I was trying to figure out the combination of like, what can I do? How can I make it better? What am I missing? What's not lining up? And I just couldn't put the pieces together. And I ended up meeting this girl and she really believed in me. She believed in me when I couldn't believe myself. And I was super attracted to that. I don't think I was attracted to her as much as I was attracted to the way that she saw me or felt about me. And so she was someone that I knew from my using life, and she had got herself clean. And part of the deal was, if you want to date me, you need to take care of this problem and get clean and sober. And so I did. I got rid of the drugs, but I continued to drink, and I wasn't good at drinking either. But I tried to maintain, and so we ended up starting a family. I married her. We started a family, and I just kept throwing things at this problem. I would get this woman's going to fix it. No, she didn't fix it. I'm still having issues with my drinking. Well, I'm going to get a good career. I did that. And I tried to, that didn't help. I still was having issues with my drinking and my partying. Well, I'm going to have kids then. I threw kids at it. And the thing was that I thought that if I checked off all the boxes to what society said is successful, then I would be fixed. Mm-hmm. So I kept checking them off. I got married. I had kids. We bought a house. We bought all the toys. The problem is that I was still sick. I was still troubled. I never fixed. It's like, it's like putting a Band-Aid over a bullet wound. Mm-hmm. It's just not going to get better. Mm-hmm. Right? You're not doing, you got to go to the source of the problem. I was the source. So ultimately what ended up happening was, we were together for 14 years. We had 4 kids together, and then I imploded again. I never addressed the actual problem. The problem was me. And I ended up I think I put together 3 years. Like, my drinking got to a point where she was like, you need to stop drinking or I'm leaving. I'm like, okay. And I think I put together 3 years of just like willpower, but I was an awful person. I was miserable. See, that's how I knew I had a problem. It wasn't actually drinking, because when I took the drinking away, then I became a very miserable person. Like, the problems didn't go away just because I'm the problem. Mm-hmm. Until I fix me, it almost gets, drinking and drugging was a symptom of my problem.
Yes.
That was kind of the cure to my problem. Yes. Because whenever I drank or used drugs, yes, I felt better. Like, but the problem is that cured to me, or my issue, or I felt using those drugs, that cured at being another additional problem to the problem. Mm-hmm. And so, when I lost my marriage, I lost my kid, I just wasn't a fit father. She wasn't allowed to see my kids. I ended up losing my job. I was working in a coal mine, operating huge trucks. And I had a safety infraction and they ended up having to do a urine test on me. And it didn't turn out good. I think they identified 4 different substances in my urine on that test, and I ended up losing my job.
Oh.
Part of the stipulation of losing my job was that I could just be done with them, or address the problem and go to what is called an addiction analysis. It's a company that they send you to. They have a psychologist, a nurse, and an addiction specialist speak with you, kind of interview and see if you have addiction problems or if you were just, this is a one and done type thing. You know, they want to know if you have the addiction personality. Well, the problem was that I'd been through treatment twice already. I knew what they were looking for. I spoke their language. I understood what they were trying to look for, the symptoms, and I was going to just bullshit my way through. I was going to say I went to a party, I was having a rough night, and these guys offered me this stuff, and I did it. I don't do it normally. I've never done it. I was going to lie, and I was going to get off the hook. So I think it was a Tuesday. It was a long weekend, and I had made it an appointment after the long weekend to go that Tuesday to Calgary and get this addiction analysis done. And my plan was I was going to bullshit my way through and kind of get them off my back. Well, that weekend was also my son's birthday party in Lethbridge on the Saturday. And so I went down early. A friend of mine in Lethbridge had said, "Why don't you come over?" I was in BC, where I was working in BC. So he said, "Come early. We'll have a house party, and then you can go to your son's birthday and do whatever." So I came that Thursday night, and I didn't leave that house till Monday morning. I had missed my son's 5th birthday party, and it devastated me. It rocked me pretty hard. I was tired. I was tired of being a disappointment, and I disappointed my son. So as a result of that, I changed my mind. I was like, I'm going to go to this. I'm going to this addiction analysis tomorrow, and I'm going to tell them everything. I'm going to be honest and let the chips fall where they may. I need change. And I knew enough that being honest was the doorway to that. And so when I went up there, I just told them the truth about what was going on in my life. And they they all kind of looked at me and said, you've got a problem. You're a classic addict. Let's start you off with, you need to go and find a meeting in your hometown.
Can I add something there? So they found out that you're an addict and they made you feel shitty on top of that, or were they somewhat compassionate?
They were compassionate, but they didn't hide the truth of it. They were blunt. Mm-hmm. This is a classic addiction behavior. We need to set up a process to address this. Mm-hmm. And so the first thing they told me to do was to go home, a meeting, go and start utilizing these meetings. Mm-hmm. And I went home and I was mad. I didn't want to go. I'd gone to these, after treatment, they'd said, you should try to find a meeting and go to a meeting. And I just didn't see the value in it. One of the most common feelings or identifications with personal identification, like how you identify yourself as an addict or an alcoholic, is I'm different. You know, an example is you ask any addict, do you follow the speed limit? 90% of them are saying no. That's for the rest of the world. I'm a good driver. I drive way over that's for the people that don't know how to drive. I'm different. I do it this way. Then you say, when you take Tylenol, how many do you take? Do you take the recommended dose? No. I know what I can use. That's not good enough. I take 6. You know, like that's our attitude. And it's very common in addicts. And it's just, we are unwilling to get into this box because we've identified that those boxes never work. We're never, yeah. So it's fundamental in us that we don't identify with anybody else's controls. Those are for the rest of the population. We're different. We do it our own way. And it will kill us. That idea in us and that fundamental way of seeing ourselves differently ultimately will kill us.
Can I add something?
Because, yes.
But your baby brain, your brain was not developed back then when you entered the school system. Your baby brain was destroyed. Your confidence was destroyed, and you were shown you don't fit in. So of course you will run through life knowing and feeling that you don't fit in. So this has to be addressed. And it's natural that addicts feel that way because they were felt that way when they were still growing their brain cells. So it's like...
Absolutely. And the worst part about society is unless you learn to climb it, because society has built these boxes everywhere. Employment, education systems, financial systems. Yeah. Unless you figure out how to make yourself fit in these boxes because they're everywhere, you're just not going to fit into society. And not fitting into society is a hard way to live.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just going to appropriate behaviors like addiction. Yeah, like, that's how I function.
You have to know.
I don't fit into society, but so this is what I do as an alternate. I use alcohol. I use drugs to feel like I fit in. So it's an idea that I guess the beautiful part about a 12-step program is it's a box. And until you figure out how to fit into their parameters or live this way of life, it's not going to work. But they teach you how to climb in and give you a slow entry, whereas usually society doesn't take their time with that. But that's one of the fundamental parts of a 12-step program is learning how to adapt to principles and ways of living. And one of the biggest fundamentals is living life on life's terms. That's a hard idea to wrap around. But it's one of the fundamentals of a 12-step program is accepting life for the way it is and letting it be. Not always having to change it. Because I have a real addiction to, I call it Jamesing things. I adjust things, I tweak things to fit me. I never fit the situation. I like to adjust things or tweak things that it fits my wants and desires. I don't fix my wants and desires to fix things naturally. But what I've learned through these programs is how to adjust myself to fit in to situations and ideals and things of that nature. And that's really helped me a lot.
And is there also a part in the program where it is about self-acceptance and finding your core again, starting to love yourself? Or is it, again, too much, maybe trying to fit in and to please and to to adapt instead of going inside and see, hey, this is how beautiful and unique I am, and this is what I can bring to the table. Like, do they bring you back to yourself too, or do they just want to fit back in?
Well, it's funny that you bring that up. We have a mantra or saying in some of these groups, and it's that we are fatally unique. That's our problem. We're so unique that it's killing us. Mm-hmm. So we don't really. We have to be careful with that.
Yeah.
Because and I'll tell you why. Sorry, is that we won't follow these simple steps because we're so unique. We need to change them to fit us. Mm-hmm. They were built for everybody else. Mm-hmm. And that's our biggest problem, is that we never followed anything to code. We've always tweaked them a little bit to fit our wants and needs because we see ourselves as unique. It's the only way we identify. But it's not so. Sorry, I'm getting my phone's blowing up. It's not that we don't love ourselves. What we're taught is how to love ourselves properly. Mm-hmm. Because what we used to do is anything that felt good, we thought we loved ourselves by getting it. I thought loving myself was taking myself out for $100 meal, taking myself to. That's what's up. Self-love, if you really analyze it, is about the long game and not the immediate game. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is saying no to that pizza because you know it's going to make you feel like shit. Mm-hmm. You know, the fact that you can't get in your pants 2 weeks down the road. Or it's going to make you feel good right now, but it's not going to make you feel good in the long run. Mm-hmm. That bland tasting meal rather is a better way to do this because in the long run, it's going to pay off. Or not buying that new pair of shoes because you need to save up and have some savings and feel financially independent. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't really need that, but it'll make you feel good right now. But like the long run, it's not going to. Mm-hmm. It would make you feel better to have that amount in your bank account where if something did happen, you know that you have a lifeline to address it. Mm-hmm. You know, those are the ideas that we need, the principles that we need to live by. Mm-hmm. You know, that it's more important to show up every day than showing up for a week lots. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like going to the gym. Mm-hmm. If you go to the gym and you hit the gym once a month like crazy and you lift hard and you go hard for 3 hours, and then the guy that went every day for half an hour, that guy that went for half an hour every day and you went once a month and worked really hard, he's going to have better results every single time.
Yeah.
And that's part of life. Showing up to life every day and just doing the best you can do, even if it's a little bit every day, is far outgoing to the results are going to be way better than if you show up once a week and go hard.
Yes.
It's about consistency. Mm-hmm. And that's where that's actual self-love is doing the hard things because you know it's better for you. Yeah. Not doing what feels good. Yeah. And I think a lot of people get confused on that.
Mm-hmm. No, totally right.
And so it's definitely, you know, it's one of those things where you got to buy into it. This is a box that will save your life. You just have to buy into it and give it your all. Mm-hmm. And my life has definitely changed for the better because I've figured out how to live life on life's terms on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. It's something I work at. Yeah. And I've picked up these tools and And if anybody is struggling with anything like this and wants to get a hold of me and wants to learn about these things and is interested in changing their lives in a positive way, I'll leave my number with you and they can contact you. And I'm always open to talking with people and helping. It's one of the beliefs we have is that the only way that we keep what we have is by giving it away. And that just means being a helpful hand. Yeah. And so if any of your listeners want to get a hold of me, I'll let them know that they can get a hold of you, and I'll leave my name and number with you, and they can definitely get a hold of me. I'm willing to help.
Thank you so much, James. Like, I feel you went so deep with your story, and so very relatable for everybody who's listening here. And you are unique. You are incredibly unique. And I know if you continue on that journey, you can help so many more people, because counseling and psychotherapist is good. But those people sometimes didn't went through the struggle, and you did go through the struggle. So you meet people on the same level and you take their hand and walk the way together with them. And this is just, endlessly precious. Thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. Well, thank you for talking with me.
Yeah, and I feel we have so much more to talk. If you feel the same, we can make it a second episode sometime soon.
Absolutely.
For now, I'll be editing this. I will post it on my Facebook, and you feel free to spread it around and have it on Facebook too, and we'll add your phone number and your name.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Hey guys and girls, I hope you enjoyed this episode with James Olson and myself. Feel free to reach out to me if you want his phone number, if you want to connect with him. You can also connect with me on Facebook or Instagram, and we can help you out, or you can help other people out in spreading this message around and making other people feel less lonely, make other people feel okay with their situation. And as hopeless as it feels, there's people out there who can and want to support you on your journey. Thank you for listening to the Borealis Experience. Your host, Aurora.